All right, let's do this. Hey, hello guys. This is Feather here again, back with another video slash review. I This video, as you can see in the title, is going to be for The Wandering Ing, Book One, which is a long book, but as far as I know, is not the longest in the series. Now, let's just go ahead and get into this because I know that it can be difficult to talk about a book as long as this, but let me just go ahead and try to let you know my the ideas and thoughts that I have about the book. So let's go ahead and start with the story, right? I'm sure everyone knows what The Wandering Inn is, but for those of you who don't, The Wandering Inn is a web novel that started being written in 2016, but now they are publishing the books, and these are very big books, as I said, and the series is in total is like four or five times the size of the Wheel of Time, just for you to know that. Now, just to give you an idea, this series you can read it for free online if you choose to do it, but I chose the Kindle version of the books. For me, it's better to read them that way. It's actually easier to get the arcs, to get a comprehension of when an arc closes and when an arc opens. So, the premise of this book is basically that we follow a young woman in her 20s who, by chance, or is it by chance, happens to be transported to this fantasy world, this fantasy setting, right? And she has to navigate her way into this new society, basically, that has elves, monsters, good and bad, dragons, lizard people, ant people, demons, you name it. It has everything. Now she gets into this world, and she stumbles into an inn. So it, that inn is going to be the Wandering Inn in the future, of course. And she sees that it's empty and it's abandoned, and she decides to live there and reopen it. Shortly after she reopens the inn, customers start coming in, and she starts making relationships with them that make the plot go. Now, without going into spoilers for this, the story is it's a good story. It's not reinventing the wheel, but I also like that it's not ignoring the wheel either. So, because through this character, Erin Solstice, is her full name, Erin Solstice. Through this character, uh, the writer acknowledges Tolkien, for example, as an influence, but the writer tries to make it their own, the world that she's writing about. What do I mean by this? Now, let me give you an example. The protagonist, Erin, is a member of our world, right? We already know that. So she knows about Tolkien, Lady Gaga, YouTube, whatever. She knows about those things, and it's easy to connect with a character like that. Now, for the world building that she makes here, as I said, she is not reinventing the wheel, and she has influences. So the world building is also acceptable. Just give me a moment here. So it's acceptable since it's taking some of fantasy's more common tropes. It's not difficult to dive into this world because we already know it a little bit. The writer knows that she is borrowing a world, and she modifies that world in a way that is both entertaining and respectful. I'll give you an example that I was going to give you earlier, and this example actually made me laugh. In a chapter, Erin, the protagonist, received a group of adventurers, right? And one of the members is an elf, And now, if you have read Tolkien, you know that elves are vegetarian, right? They don't eat meat. They're very clean about that. And so, evidently, Aaron takes Tolkien as a historical source, right? And she gives a plate of leaves to this character, the elf, and to the rest of the group, a minotaur, mages, and such. She serves regular food with meat and everything else. Um, greasy delicious food, right? Now the elf, shortly after seeing that her plate was just a plate of leaves, uh, she requests a normal plate like everyone else. And Erin says, "I thought you elves were vegetarian." And she replies, "Who told you that?" Something like that. And Erin is just not able to answer the question, because how are you going to reference Tolkien to an actual elf? Right, so that's a funny scenario that the writer made there, and it's acknowledging Tolkien, right, as the master, as one of the writers that expanded this fantasy world. So, as you can see, the world of the Wandering Inn is a world that we know, sort of, because you never know really when the writer is going to change the tropes, like with the elf story, or just create whole new ones. The part that I enjoyed the most about this book is one storyline about the ant people that I was mentioning before. These ant-like creatures who don't have a personality, they're called the Antinium. They work as a collective, right? As all ants do. And they don't have a personality. But as they interact with Aaron and they start to play chess, for example, they develop a personality, a will, if you want to say it like that. And that plot line is my personal favorite. Is entertaining, and it's funny as well sometimes, but it can get very sad as well, especially by the end. The value of these ants, how much is life worth for them? But yeah, talking about those fantasy elements, I want to mention that this book is a progression fantasy story. So think of it like a video game, an MMO, like World of Warcraft or Diablo or something like that. When Aaron got to spend the first night in the Wandering Inn, she realized before going to sleep that she was now an innkeeper level 1. So she saw that somewhere in her head, that she was an innkeeper level 1. And as the book tells you right away, shortly after that, everyone has levels. Everyone is constantly leveling up, and these levels give you abilities according to the class that you have, and that's pretty easy to follow, right? So I have to be honest here. When I heard when I heard that, the explanation that I just gave to you, um, I, I wasn't interested in the book. I lost my interest in the book completely. But someone mentioned that the levels, this leveling up with abilities and everything, the levels were not that invasive into the writing style. With this, I mean, like you were not going to see every goddamn page level. You're now level 2, 3, or whatever. So that was a good sign for me, and that's why I decided to actually read the book. And they were correct. Besides some mention here and there, just to know on what level the protagonist is, I didn't see a lot of contamination on the actual text. Um, so, okay, the actual text. Let's talk about that, about the writing style for this book. Now you got to remember, this is the first book. This was the writer's first like actual work. So I mean, you got to go easy here. But the only valid complaint I can see someone making about this book is the writing style, because it's not a good writing style. it's not even a style. It feels amateurish at times. The writer sometimes is excessively redundant. Also, sometimes the writing on some characters doesn't make any sense. Uh, Let me give you an example about that in a moment. So, all right, just to give you the example real quick. A citizen from this world was battling a mage, right? Um, no, none. None of these characters were human. Either the warrior or the mage, none were human. So when the mage threw a fireball to the warrior that we were following in that specific chapter, when she saw the fireball, the warrior, the character literally said that the fire was as large as a basketball. Now, this would make sense if we were reading a chapter from Erin's perspective, the protagonist, right? Because she's from our world. She knows what basketball is. Um, and here with this warrior, it just takes you out of the reading because how does she know what basketball is? For example, let me give you another one, and this is a funny one, for me at least. As I mentioned before, my favorite plot line and favorite characters were the Antinium, the ant-like creatures, right? Or so there comes a point where a few of these ants start to gain independence, right? Gain their will. They're no they're no like blindly obeying the queen's orders, right? So there's a queen ant as well. There's a plot line there. But yeah, we have a group here of ants, Antinium, that they develop a personality, and they start naming each other. They want a name. Previously, they didn't have a name at all, but now that they develop a personality, they want a name. Now they're out of the collective, they want a name, right? So they go around, they're in a circle, and they start saying their names, the names that they're chose for themselves, and it's the usual fantasy names until it comes to the turn. It comes the turn of the last ant there on the circle, and the ant chose the name Jose. It was literally Jose, the name. So you mean to tell me that a Mexican construction worker slipped to this fantasy world as well, and that's how they are familiar with the name Jose? No. So that happens a few times in this book. But that was a funny one. It was like, my name is, I don't know, Baldor or something like fantasy name. And then it came to the last one, and the hand just said, my name is Jose. I don't know. That was so freaking funny. I don't know if the writer made that on purpose. I don't believe so, but it was pretty funny, man. But yeah, my overall enjoyment of this book. I mean, the writing style can be forgiven. To be honest, uh, you're not reading Shakespeare, and you don't want to when you're. I mean, you know this is an amateur writer, right? And it's interesting. The ending of the book is great. The characters are fun, and I really clicked with some of the humor in this book, to be honest, which is not easy for me. I would really recommend this book to anyone who likes a good progression fantasy story like Mother of Learning, Solo Leveling, right? That sort of stuff. And my advice is don't go into these stories, these books, wanting to catch up because most likely you will never will. And just take it one book at a time, man. Spend a few times, spend a few months away from the series, and then come back, read a book, spend a year without reading it. Just enjoy it, man. Don't think about it too much about the length. Just see how far you can get, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to stress about it. And for example, my plan right now is to read a book every semester. So for example, if I read this book last month, I'm going to read the second book in what, July, August. So I'm taking it easy with this, and yeah, I mean I'm looking forward actually to the next books, and I know that they get longer, but I don't really mind that, to be honest. I mean, for what I've heard, the writing gets better, the story gets better, and the scope of the story gets greater as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I totally recommend this book to you guys. I hope you read it. If not, I hope this was a good recommendation, or just for you to know if you might like this book or not. In either case, I do want to thank you for seeing and coming along with the way with me this long, and have a good one.